Your silence is hurting them more than you think. Modern Stoicism. Silence is a source of great strength. Lao Tzu. Welcome back to the channel. Do you know what haunts a person the most? It's not the words they never heard. It's the silence they never expected. They assumed you'd always be there, that no matter how many times they pushed you away, you'd fight harder to prove your worth. They thought your love was a given, something they could take for granted, walk away from, and still find waiting when it suited them. They walked away expecting you to chase, to beg, to break first. But what they never saw coming was your silence. Because silence is the one thing they can't control. When you stop explaining, stop justifying, stop proving yourself, you take away their power without saying a single word. They anticipated anger. They braced for pain. They expected a flood of messages, desperate attempts to make them understand how much they hurt you. But silence? Silence forces them to confront something far worse, their own reflection. At first, they tell themselves you just need time, that any moment now you'll cave, sending that one last message, offering one more chance. But what they don't realize is that your silence isn't a pause, it's a decision. The moment you choose silence over explanation, their ego starts to unravel. Silence doesn't feed their pride, it starves it. It forces them to face the truth they've been avoiding, that maybe you weren't the weak one after all. Maybe it was them who were being tolerated. Maybe it was them who lost something rare, someone who would have loved them unconditionally. They thought leaving would break you, but it's your silence that's breaking them in ways they'll never admit, because silence plants the seed of doubt. And doubt is the slowest, most agonizing poison to the human mind. They start checking your social media, rereading old conversations, replaying every moment, searching for signs of the control they once had over you. They wanted you to chase them, because as long as you're chasing, they don't have to face the weight of what they've lost. But when you go silent, they realize something they never expected. You're not chasing them, you're replacing them. This isn't about mind games. This isn't about revenge. This is about giving them exactly what they gave you. Nothing. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can ever say is absolutely nothing at all. In this video, I'll break down why your silence is affecting them more than you think, the hidden stages they go through behind closed doors, and how holding your silence not only reprograms their mind, but rebuilds your own self-worth in the process. If you've ever doubted whether your silence has an impact, by the end of this video, you'll understand why it's the most powerful response you could ever give. Let's dive in. Number 1. Why silence hurts more than words. Silence is the weapon no one sees coming, yet it cuts deeper than any word ever could. The human mind is designed to process language, to argue, to rationalize, and to block out what it doesn't want to hear. But silence? Silence forces a person to sit alone with their thoughts, confronting the truth they've been avoiding. This is where the real battle begins. When someone expects you to chase them, beg for an explanation, or plead for closure, your silence isn't just confusing, it's unsettling. They wanted to feel important enough to provoke a reaction, to pull you into another argument, to make you prove your worth one last time. What they never expected was for you to do nothing at all. That is where the power of modern Stoicism reveals itself, because true strength lies in what you refuse to engage with. The absence of words creates a void in their mind, one they must now fill with their own thoughts. And the human mind, when left alone, is its own worst enemy. At first they tell themselves you're just playing a game, that you're waiting by the phone, hoping they'll reach out. But as days turn into weeks, that silence starts whispering darker truths into their consciousness. What if you're not waiting? What if you've really moved on? What if, instead of suffering in silence, you're thriving in it? That doubt, that creeping insecurity, becomes the slow poison they never saw coming. And the worst part, they're the ones pouring the glass. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Your lack of reaction speaks volumes. By choosing silence, you deny them closure, comfort, and the reassurance that they still have control. Every time they check their phone and see no missed calls or messages, it stings. Every time they refresh your social media and find no sad posts, it burns. Every time they try to provoke you with indirect posts and you give them nothing, it breaks them a little more. Because now, the question tormenting them isn't whether you're hurting, it's whether you ever truly needed them at all. This is the core of modern Stoic principles, mastering yourself, not others. You are no longer the one chasing, you have become the one being chased, without lifting a single finger. Silence shifts the entire power dynamic, and in doing so, it reveals a truth they never expected. They thought they broke you, but in reality, they only shattered the version of you that once tolerated their disrespect. Your silence isn't just absence, it's a lesson, a mirror reflecting back to them the consequences of their actions. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings." And now they are the ones learning. So I challenge you to claim your power today. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence is my power. Because the moment you master the art of walking away without a fight is the moment they realize they lost someone they never truly deserved. That's the essence of modern Stoicism, detaching from what does not serve you and stepping into a life of inner peace, self-respect, and quiet strength. Number 2. The hidden stages they go through. Your silence isn't just something they notice, it's something they feel. What most people don't realize is that silence doesn't hit them all at once. It breaks them down slowly, stage by stage, in ways they'll never admit out loud. Stage 1. Relief. In the beginning, they convince themselves that you're just giving them space, that you're playing some temporary mind game to get their attention. Their ego whispers, "They'll be back." They always come back. They actually feel a sense of control in your silence at first, believing it's only a matter of time before you reach out with one more apology, one more chance. But what they don't realize is that your silence isn't a pause. It's the final answer to a question they've been testing for far too long. Stage 2. Curiosity days go by, then weeks, and the message they were so sure they'd get never arrives. That's when the checking starts. They scroll through your social media, watching your stories in secret. They look for any sign that you're still hurting. Maybe a sad quote, maybe a breakup song, maybe something indirect to show them you're still waiting in the shadows. But the most painful thing they can ever see is nothing at all. No sad posts, no indirect messages, no proof that you're still suffering over them. Just silence. And that silence starts to eat at them in ways they can't explain. The human mind hates the unknown. When someone can't figure out what you're thinking, their imagination will always assume the worst. Stage 3. Frustration. This is when frustration kicks in. They might start testing you, liking old pictures, posting things they know will trigger you, or showing off their life to make you feel like they're better off without you. But when you stay silent, when you don't fall for the bait, it drives them insane, because now, for the first time, they're the one feeling powerless. Stage 4. Fear. Fear that you're not playing games. Fear that you're really moving on. Fear that someone else is replacing everything they took for granted. And the truth is, the more time that passes without a response, the more their mind starts creating stories that hurt them more than any truth ever could. They thought your silence meant you were weak. But now, that same silence is making them question if they were the weak one all along. Because why would someone who truly loved them let them go so easily? Stage 5. Regret. Every memory they took for granted starts replaying in their mind like a movie they can't turn off. Every time you forgave them, every time you fought for them, every time you cried behind closed doors, trying to fix what they broke. Those moments hit harder when you're no longer there to remind them. They'll never tell anyone how much your silence is breaking them. Their pride won't allow it. They'll try to act unbothered on the outside while breaking into 1,000 pieces on the inside. But the longer your silence holds, the heavier that regret becomes, until eventually they break. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "If you wish to be strong, learn to enjoy being misunderstood." That's exactly what your silence is doing, letting them misunderstand your strength while you quietly rebuild yourself behind closed doors. Drop this affirmation in the comments right now. I'm choosing silence because I'm choosing myself. Remember, the person who stays silent holds all the power. Number 3. How your silence is reprogramming their mind. Your silence isn't just hurting them, it's reshaping their entire perception of you, rewiring the way they see you in ways they never anticipated. When someone walks away, they assume your world will orbit around them, that you will seek closure, chase them, or prove that they mattered. But the moment you choose silence, you disrupt their expectations. You introduce them to a version of you they never considered. One that doesn't beg, doesn't plead, and doesn't need validation. The moment you stop engaging, their narrative about who you are begins to fracture. They had convinced themselves that you would always be there, always waiting, always making them feel important. But your silence dismantles that illusion. Every time they check their phone and find nothing, their mind is forced to fill in the blanks. And what they create in their own thoughts will be far worse than anything you could have said. Maybe they weren't as weak as I thought. Maybe they never needed me the way I assumed. Maybe I wasn't as special to them as I believed. These questions don't just linger, they haunt. The human mind abhors a vacuum, and silence is the deepest void of all. The longer they sit with it, the more their own insecurities surface, and what wounds them the most isn't just your absence, but the reality that they will never have the answers they crave. Seneca once said, "The greatest revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." This is the blessing of Stoicism, the ability to remain unmoved, to let your absence speak louder than words ever could. Your silence is a testament to your growth, a declaration that you no longer need their validation. You are no longer the person they could manipulate, no longer the one seeking closure, desperate for explanations that no longer matter. Instead, you have become the person they always feared you could be, someone who can walk away without looking back. This is the true power of Stoic lessons, the ability to master your emotions rather than be controlled by them. In a world that constantly demands a reaction, silence is the ultimate act of control. Modern Stoicism teaches us that peace comes not from engaging in unnecessary battles, but from understanding that true strength is found in self-restraint. Let them wonder, let them question, let them realize that the absence of your words is far more powerful than the presence of theirs. And as they come to terms with that reality, you will be exactly where you need to be, free, unbothered, and at peace. Drop this affirmation in the comments right now. My silence is teaching them what my presence never could. And share your thoughts. Have you ever witnessed the power of silence in your own life? Let's talk about it below. Number 4. How to keep your silence powerful. Silence is a weapon, but only if you know how to wield it. The hardest part of silence isn't the beginning. It's staying silent when every part of you wants to explain, justify, or prove a point. The weak crave validation. The undisciplined seek closure. But a true Stoic? He understands that power isn't in words, it's in restraint. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That is the essence of Stoic life. The moment you break your silence just to satisfy your ego, you surrender your power. You give them what they wanted all along, your reaction, and when you react, you are no longer in control. Your silence should not be empty. It should be the foundation of your transformation. This is not the time to sulk. This is not the time to wait. This is your season to rebuild everything they tried to break. Train your body. Let them see strength where they expected weakness. Train your mind. Let them see wisdom where they expected foolishness. Train your spirit. Let them see peace where they expected chaos. Don't just disappear. Evolve. The Stoics understood that true power lies in mastering yourself, not in convincing others. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." And bravery is not about speaking. It is about standing firm in your silence while you silently sharpen your blade. A king never begs a queen to stay. A warrior never explains his battle plan. You are the prize. Let your silence force them to question if they ever really knew you at all. Let them wonder. Number 5. When will they break? They'll break the moment they realize you're not waiting anymore. Not when they hear your silence, but when they finally grasp that your silence isn't an emotional reaction, it's a deliberate choice. At first they'll dismiss it as a game, assuming you're playing a waiting strategy. But silence doesn't shatter people immediately. It erodes them over time, piece by piece, as reality settles in. They'll break when they realize you're not seeking revenge, not posting cryptic messages, not blocking them in an act of defiance, and certainly not drowning in bitterness. You're not even angry anymore. You're simply gone. And that, more than anything, is what haunts them. The ancient Stoics understood this power of detachment. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." True strength isn't in retaliation, it's in evolution. Modern Stoicism teaches that mastering our emotions means understanding that silence isn't about making someone else suffer. It's about reclaiming your own peace. When someone no longer values your presence, your greatest response is to withdraw it entirely, not in resentment, but in self-respect. And by the time they finally break and attempt to reach you, you will already be someone they can no longer access. Someone wiser, stronger, untouchable. Silence isn't just the absence of words. It's the presence of self-mastery. It's the message that speaks volumes without a single sound. It forces them to sit with their own actions, their own choices, their own regrets. You are not punishing them, you are simply choosing yourself. And that is the deepest cut of all. As Epictetus once said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." By choosing not to engage, you demonstrate that they no longer have any control over your emotions. You are free. This is modern Stoicism in action, understanding that control over oneself is the only true power. When you stop reacting, when you stop proving your worth to those who overlooked it, you become something they never expected, someone untouchable. Let them wonder, let them regret, let them feel the emptiness left behind by your absence. Because in that silence, you will have found yourself. And nothing is more powerful than a man who needs nothing from those who once took him for granted. If you're choosing your self-worth over chasing someone who never valued you, comment below, "I choose myself." And if you're ready to turn your silence into power, subscribe, because this is just the beginning of your transformation. Number 6. When silence becomes your strength. Silence is not just a response, it's a transformation. When you embrace silence, you're not just teaching them a lesson, you're reshaping your own mind. You're proving to yourself that your happiness, peace, and self-worth were never tied to their presence in the first place. At first, silence might feel unnatural. You might crave the closure, the final words, the validation that they truly understood how much they hurt you. But over time, you realize that the only validation you ever needed was your own. Silence doesn't just change how they see you, it changes how you see yourself. It forces you to sit with your thoughts, to confront your own emotions, and to grow stronger in ways you never imagined. It teaches you patience. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you that sometimes the most powerful act of self-love is walking away without needing to explain why. And here's the most powerful part. When silence becomes your strength, you no longer use it as a weapon against them. You use it as a shield for yourself. It's no longer about making them regret losing you. It's about making sure you never settle for anyone who makes you question your own worth again. The philosopher Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, once said, "Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue," because when you master the art of silence, you master the art of self-control. Drop this affirmation in the comments right now. My silence is my strength, and I choose peace over chaos. Because at the end of the day, silence isn't just a response, it's your ultimate victory. Silence is a powerful tool. When you use it wisely, it speaks louder than any words. Remember, you don't always need to react. Sometimes your silence itself is the response that carries the most weight. Stay strong, stay centered, and let your actions, or lack of them, speak for you. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps this channel grow and reach more people who need this wisdom. And now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever used silence to make a statement? How did it impact the situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, stay disciplined, stay wise, and keep mastering yourself. See you in the next video.